Hello, thank you for tuning in to this 2016 General Election Candidate Forum for Legislative District 2. Senator, the forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and TCTV. The League is a nonprofit organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in their government. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties. We are nonpartisan. The League registers new voters, studies issues, and advocates for its positions with the legislature. Despite its name, the League is open to both men and women of voting age. I'm Allison Brooks from the League, and I'll be moderating this forum. The candidates for Legislative District 2 Senator are Randy Becker and Marilyn Rasmussen. For this forum, candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then I'll ask them questions in alternating order. The person first asked the question will have 2 minutes for a response, followed by 1 minute from the other candidate. There will be 1 minute for closing statements at the end. We'll begin with opening statements from the candidates, beginning with Randy Becker. So good morning, both of you, and Randy, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. Because it is a nonpartisan event, it is fun to come and hear the questions. We have no prior knowledge of the questions, and so these answers are spontaneous, and you'll hear what we're thinking about these very issues. I want to say thank you to the voters of the 2nd Legislative District for voting me in now twice, and hopefully you'll vote me in another time. I am so committed to doing this job and finding out what it is that you as our voters want, what it is that the legislative body is going to do. I'm really proud of our successes in the last few years. We've been able to put K-12 education as our first and foremost project. We have funded K-12, $4.6 billion. We are 500 classrooms ahead. We've worked on the K-3 classroom sizes. We've worked on telemedicine. We've worked on jobs. We've worked on lowering tuition in colleges, and we have done that all without raising taxes. So I am encouraged by that, and hopefully we move on to the next step of this and finish McCleary this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Well, again, I would like to echo the thank you for the League of Women Voters for putting on the forum. I greatly appreciate this because this gives us a chance for you, the public, to understand what we are all about. And for those that don't know me, I have been in the legislature for 22 years. I had served on a school board before, and then I served as a representative for 6 years and a senator for 16. And during that time, I chaired the Agriculture Committee, and while many people think that agriculture isn't important in the state, it's tremendously important. It's our economic engine for the state. Not only that, but we are very concerned in food safety and pesticides and a lot of the issues that is in your daily home every day. I also have served on education, and that to me is the paramount duty of the state. I live on a farm, and a former dairy farm. I've lived in the community and on our farm for 56 years. And I have 7 children that, for the most part, have all been educated in the state of Washington at Eatonville High School and different colleges. And 19 grandchildren, which I tremendously love. And so I'm hoping that through this forum that you'll learn a little bit more and visit our websites and compare, and please remember to vote. That's the most important. That's one of the reasons I was running, is that we need choices and we need to energize people to get out and vote.
Thank you. Okay, now we're ready for the first question. And the first question will go to Randy Becker for 2 minutes. The State Environmental Policy Act, known as SEPA, is a complicated law involving multiple agencies designed to properly consider the impacts of a project on the natural and cultural environment. Are there any changes that you would make to SEPA?
Actually, I've had a few encounters with the Department of Natural Resources in our district recently, and it relates to Lake Kapowsin, working with the Department of Natural Resources and creating the first freshwater aquatic reserve. While I had a budget proviso in asking for a one-year extension so that people could have a chance in our district to have more of a voice in the process, the SEPA process went forward on Lake Kapowsin, and they have now created a freshwater aquatic reserve. The process that I would like to see changed is more opportunity for true open meetings with more communication about the time and the locations. A lot of our folks did not receive notifications timely, nor did they receive notifications. So this whole process could have gone through without having the folks from the district, their involvement. I think with any agency, it's looking at how they establish their rules and work within those guidelines. And I think that SEPA is a good agency, a good entity, a good methodology, but I think that there are issues, and I think the people of the district deserve to be heard more openly. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn, would you like me to repeat the question, or do you?
No,
have
I
it?
understand
Great.
it very well.
And you have 1 minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I also understand the SEPA process, and I think it's tremendously important for what we have done as far as returning fish to their spawning grounds and being able to clean up Puget Sound. All of those issues that have come to pass is really good. The issue that I would have with SEPA is that they need to listen to far more agencies before they deem what and okay their project. They put a Pierce County landfill in my district. In fact, it's in my backyard. And their Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, all refused. It said it was a wetlands, and yet it was in there permanently, and it was not supposed to be. The SEPA process needs to have hearings, and when they wanted to extend it, but now it's a lifetime. And that was wrong. They need to reach out to the people.
Thank you. Marilyn, next question, and you'll have 2 minutes. It is absolutely clear that the state lacks the revenue to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling on basic education and the federal court's ruling on culverts without reducing other major areas of government, such as education, corrections, and social services. How will you solve the need for additional revenue? You have 2 minutes.
Well, and you're absolutely right. We do have to look at additional revenue. But we also, in the meantime, have to make sure that we have closed a lot of the loopholes that exist. And when we also have to look at our taxing system, and there is in this state, we do not have a corporate profits tax or an intangible tax. Should those things be put back on the table? Should we be also looking at some other forms of revenues, perhaps maybe the sales tax? But before we go to any of those ventures, I think we really need to look at all the loopholes and make sure that there is not an existing way to be able to solve the McCleary issue. I am a strong supporter of education and our vocational education, and also making sure that basic education and the other services that the kids need in schools are available, and that is going to mean that there will have to be additional revenue. But first, I've always served on Ways and Means for 22 years in the legislature, and I feel like we just haven't solved that problem, and we haven't even begun to tap the sources of the loopholes.
Thank you. Randy, you have 1 minute. Do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I think I have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have to say I'm really proud that in the last 4 years, especially the last 3 years, we have actually put $4.6 billion towards education, the K-12 education. And we did that without raising taxes. We looked at efficiencies in government, we looked at reforming things, we looked at every avenue, and only will we raise taxes as a last resort. When we're looking at the loophole issue, we're actually looking at what is incentivizing people to come into Washington State and stay here. I'm on JLARC. JLARC is a joint legislative audit and review committee, and every year, every summer, even during session, we are reviewing all of those loopholes or incentives. And if they don't work and they're not doing the intended mission, then we are changing those and getting rid of those. But in the meantime, we are bringing businesses into our area, and we are keeping businesses into our area, which helps in everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Randy, you'll go first and you'll have 2 minutes. What additional safeguards can the legislature put in place to protect citizens and the environment from the oil and coal trains that pass through our communities?
Thank you. Well, I think that this is an issue that I think that so many people are listening to and having concerns. You know, when I was talking to another senator earlier today, we were talking about the coal trains, and the coal trains actually are regulated by the federal government, and those regulations include spraying foams on those coal trains, etc., so that the particulates don't go into the air and we don't have the same issues that we had before. Oil trains are in the same situation. They are governed by the federal government, state by state. They know that they're crossing the line and they've met those. But in the legislative body this last year, we actually created, through a bill that Senator Erickson wrote, legislation that put in place some of the strongest, actually the strongest safety measures in the nation. That's the type of thing that we need to continue to do, is make sure that we have kept everybody safe, that the trains have the ability to move, and we protect our environment in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn, you have 1 minute to answer the question.
Well, thank you. I think this is a very, very important question and an important issue for the citizens of the state. Obviously, the coal trains is an economic boost for our ports and for our communities. However, federal inspections is just not enough. I think the state needs to step in. A couple months ago, when they had the accident down on the Columbia River, it was just inspected the day before by the federal government, but the state needs to step in and make sure that all those inspections are in place according to our state. Also, they need to be covered. They haven't talked about that at all, but I think that they need to be covered.
Okay.
We need to protect the people first.
Thank you. Question 4. Marilyn, you get this question first. The state does not have adequate resources to adequately care for the mentally ill. How are you proposing to address this problem?
Oh, this is my other priority issue, is the mentally ill. We have, I'm not going to say a revolving door, but it is a difficult door to enter and a difficult door to exit. But the issue is treatment. We need to be able to start treatment early, and we need to be able to reach out and find the mentally ill and be able to see that they are taken care of in an adequate facility and an adequate manner if they're staying at home. It's a big issue, and it's another one that is a priority of the state of Washington, that we are to take care of education and the mentally ill. And we've closed down our hospitals. We need to be able to fund them in a more form and find more beds for the mentally ill, and also a lot more treatment programs. I think that's essential. That has to come out of the general fund budget. So it's coming out of the same pot, you might say, that education and all the other services comes out of. But we also have to recognize that is a contributing factor to our community in homelessness and sometimes crime.
Thank you. Randy, you have 1 minute.
Oh, I wish I had hours because this is a really critical issue. We have in the legislative body addressed mental health in numerous different ways. One of the things that we've done, though, is we've worked with Western State Hospital and the fiasco of that hospital losing its accreditation and the potential of being shut down by the federal government. If we lose that funding from the federal government, that's $65 million that we lose. I wrote a bill on telemedicine, which would actually enable people from their homes seek and get mental health treatment. We have a collaboration working on that right now, and we will have more legislation coming forward. But it does take a community working together, and a community that's willing to step forward and know where the information is available for them so that they can get that person help and learn where they need to help more. Mental health is not just mental health, it's drug and alcohol abuse, it's the opioid addictions, and it goes on. And that's my time.
Thank you. Randy, you get question number 5 first, and you'll have 2 minutes. The tragic shooting at the mall in Burlington, Washington is another example of gun violence that we have been facing in Washington State and across the nation. Do you support Initiative 1491? Why or why not? And how do you propose to keep our citizens safe from gun violence?
Well, 1491, no, I don't. And I'm just going to be honest and direct about it. There's no going around it. I think that when you're talking about guns and you're talking about people, the people pull the trigger, it's not the gun. And maybe that people don't feel is an adequate answer, but it is part of this. When you're looking at this, are there mental health issues? We do have some restrictions around those folks that have mental health issues and their ability to get the guns. We do have more problems with guns now than we did before, but there are more people arming themselves because they're more afraid of what's happening at the federal level and how that will impact them. When you see these shootings and you talk about it, maybe if someone had been there that had a gun, maybe so many people wouldn't have been killed. Now, do I agree with that necessarily? Not so, but I do believe that it's in the process of looking at what is happening in our society, what is making people so fearful, and what is causing these huge issues that people are actually going to a gun. If they don't have a gun available to them, they're going to go to a knife, and we've had that demonstrated to us as well. Or they'll go to a bat or whatever else it is that's going to take that other person's life or lives. And so I think that, it is my right as an individual in the United States to have a gun and to use it, but it is also our obligation in the state to monitor and make sure that only the people that have that don't have mental health issues are not getting those guns. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn, you have 1 minute.
Well, obviously, I live on a farm, and I'm a registered gun owner. I have a pistol, and I've come from a family of hunters. In fact, last night, right up to my deck at my house was 34 head elk coming in to munch on the grass clippings and the apples in the yard. But I support the initiative. I support the initiative because we have to do something. We have to do something and keep the AK-47s out of people's hands, and maybe the availability of guns to people that should not acquire them. Does that mean that they need to be registered? I see no reason why you can't register a gun. We register just about everything else in society, in whether it's marriages or cars or even your children. And so I see no reason why we can't address this problem and do it to the satisfaction of everyone.
Thank you. Okay, question 6. Marilyn, you get question 6, and you can start for 2 minutes. State parks and other natural and cultural resource agencies have been underfunded for numerous years. Will you support additional funding for state parks and other state agencies that protect natural and cultural resources?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. I'm a strong supporter of our state parks, and having the national park in my district, we have created a state park up near another state park up near Eatonville. We started it in '88, and it's finally beginning to have its feet on the ground. Yes, I'm a big supporter of it. Did we get enough money through license plates and it's voluntary? I think there's a whole lot of voluntary ways that we can add to our state parks budget, but I think we definitely need to make sure that our state parks are open and available to everyone. And we shouldn't be privatizing vendors or whatever in our state parks if that is not appropriate in those particular parks. But I do think that this is another one of the real beauties of our state government, is taking care of, making sure that our tax dollars reaches out to all families, and so that they can enjoy this beautiful Washington, because we do live in the most beautiful area in the whole country. There isn't anything prettier than, and more fun and enjoyable than our parks.
Thank you. Randy, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. So I am a huge supporter of our parks, and I too acknowledge Mount Rainier and the national park that it is. But I also believe very strongly that when we've been trying to get parks into the area, i.e. Ashford Park, and dealing with the county, etc., trying to get the funds and actually coming to the state and getting more funds. These are parks that actually affect the people in our district. What has happened is when we have a private entity that's trying to donate a park and create a park and donate it to the county or even keep it open, the cost of the permitting is huge. They cannot afford to do that. It would cost them over $1 million just to permit the park. I think that there is also already a process in place where people can opt out if they don't want to pay the $5 fee on the licensing, and people have a choice there. I know that I go to parks, state parks and local parks all over actually I've gone all over the country, and our parks rank one of the best in the nation as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Well, since we were talking about the beauty of Washington State, and I have to agree, we have an especially amazing coastline, well, let's segue to the next question. Randy, you get the next question. Climate change. Climate change is a concern and affecting our communities across the United States, including here in Washington State. For example, tribal nations along the coast have been affected by climate change as they are losing their land base. What can you propose in the legislature that can help Washington State reduce the impact of climate change?
Well, actually, in our transportation package, we address that. In our energy and environmental committee, we worked on that as well. Not all the bills went through, but whether you believe in climate change or not, you have to be good stewards of this, just in the state of Washington. But you also have to be good stewards throughout the nation and globally. And I think we're really fortunate here in Washington State that we have the cleanest air in the nation. We have a lot of the things that pull the environment together that we have really done a good job in Washington State to protect. I don't believe that putting money and using what I would call methodologies to tax people or put taxes on businesses for the sake of changing this is the answer to everything. I believe very strongly that government can help those processes, but not necessarily by penalizing the people with more and more dollars, i.e. through business and passing it on. Let's look at what it takes to be a good steward. It's all of us individually looking at what we can do to help our environment, whether it's recycling. I hang my laundry out. I don't use my dryer and all those things during the time. Those are things that all of us can do individually. But we need to classify, make sure that our hydropower is classified as clean energy, and move forward with everything else that goes on with the environment. We have to be good stewards because it's our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are going to inherit this, and it's important that we look at it from every aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn, you have 1 minute to talk about climate change.
Well, I obviously am a very strong supporter of working for climate change. And I think that when we start talking about how can we fund even more issues, working on more issues, the biggest issue I think is that we have some companies that are repetitively polluters. And I think their fines perhaps are not enough, but they shouldn't be polluting to begin with. And I think that's where the heart of all this is that once they have polluted or our estuaries or our groundwater, whatever, they need to be held accountable to a higher level. Now the carbon tax issue is going to be back on the ballot, and I think that that's one of the things that we definitely need to make sure that we're going to stop or slow down the ridership or using our vehicles, and perhaps that's one method of doing so.
Thank you, and thank you both for answering our questions today. You both have 1 minute for a closing statement, and we shall start with Brandy Becker.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this today and listening to our responses. I always feel like I fumble a lot, but the point is that you're getting pretty much our responses on it. I would like to ask a favor of all of you out there in the viewership, is take a look at these questions, look at these from your perspective, and look at how each and every one of these things will affect you in the district. You know, the 2nd Legislative District is a very independent district. We have a lot of rural areas. A lot of these things are coming from, will this help in one area versus another of our state? And how does that affect the people in the 2nd Legislative District, both in your lifestyle and in your pocketbook? So again, I would like to say one final thing, and no matter what you feel about either one of us as candidates, get out and vote. This is your government. This is your government, and without you saying what you want by your vote, you don't have a voice. So again, thank you so much for listening to this.
Marilyn, you have 1 minute for a closing statement.
Well, thank you. And I too agree that the most important thing you can do is vote. But also the next best thing is to make sure that you are going through all the avenues you can to inform yourself about the candidates that you are and the issues that you are voting for. I ask that you check their records, look at their websites, and try to be as knowledgeable about the people that are putting forth to do the service of representing you. I would say over and over again, it is a service that we put ourselves out to make sure you're represented. I listen, and I'm always answering my phone, and I'm always available, and I get the job done. And that's one of the reasons I have entered the race again. And so I would hope that you will be reminded by this interview to vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you both for joining us today. Thank you to our candidates for their participation, and thank you to Thurston County Community Media for producing this show. From Thurston Community Media and from the League of Women Voters, we encourage you to vote in the general election on November 8th. Please vote. I'm Allison Brooks, and thank you for joining us today.